All right, let's look at high-ranking officers. So these are figures known as generals. There were 10 total unearthed. They're dressed in battle robes and armor. Some are holding swords, some have hands crossed at their stomachs. They wear double layered robes under colorful fish scaled armor, which you learned a little bit about why we don't see paint and color on these warriors today. There are high caps with pheasant tail feathers, and that indicates the highest status in the army. So here we have a closer look at a high-ranking officer with a cap with a pheasant's tail feather, indicating again the highest status in the army. The middle-ranking army officer wears a double slab cap. They're dressed in armor. Some stand next to high-ranking officers and who serve as their deputies. They have some have strong bodies, uplifted spirits, and stand along other soldiers. Look at this nice gentleman with his uplifted spirits. Low-ranking officers all wear single slab caps. There are two types. Some have no armor and just a battle robe. I'm going to talk about those in the next slide. Others have heavy armor, like the two you see here, and each hold a long weapon like a spear or a dagger axe. And then here you have a low-ranking officer in the battle robe. There were 433 of these low-ranking officers found in Pit 1, 36 in Pit 2. They wear a high conical bun on the right side of their heads, a quiver in their backs with a crossbow or a long weapon in their hands, and the robe assists with swiftness and flexibility. They could carry out raids with the great agility wearing these comfortable robes. Here is a standing terracotta archer. They're standing in shooting position. There was one found in Pit 1, 172 found in Pit 2, and we see here that they have a hair bun, in a hair in a bun, and a light battle robe once again. We have kneeling archers. They would have been holding a crossbow originally if they hadn't been made of wood and disintegrated over time. There were 160 unearthed. Most were arranged in rows in Pit 2. The kneeling archers are able to aim and be less visible by their enemies because they're lower to the ground. There were armored warriors. These were heavy infantry men. There were 1,300 unearthed and three types. Ones with conical hair buns, ones with flat hair buns on one side, and as we see here, ones with turbans. And here you have another armored warrior. So these guys were the main force in the army. Their weapons were according to their ranks. Some hold crossbows, others hold long weapons, bows, dagger axes, spears, double-bladed spears with long shafts, or metal-headed clubs with tapering tails. There were cavalrymen and saddled horses. This one was found in Pit 2. The uniform of the cavalrymen is the earliest archaeological record of the Hufu. The Hu referring to the northern minorities living in the northwestern part of ancient China, and Fu meaning costume or uniform. Most were equipped with crossbows and short swords. And these horses were a special breed. They had low, heavy heads, muscular bodies, and well-developed legs. They were in great shape for speedy, quick riding, and there were strict government rules about the height of the saddled horses being no less than 51 inches. Most of these were trained in government barns. And let's look at the bronze chariots pit items. These were burial objects, so these represented Emperor Qin's vehicles. They excavated this pit near the mausoleum mound, and these bronze chariots are the earliest and best preserved bronze artifacts in the world. They reveal Emperor Qin's dynasty's driving technique, Also, superb bronze casting technique and magnificent paintings and a study of the chariot systems. So Qin's reunification of China was one of his great examples of progress. In the spring and autumn period, Qin was renowned for his powerful military strength. He wielded hundreds of thousands of chariots, horses, and infantrymen, and he was able to unify China by defeating the 6 other warring states. And so these artifacts that we find in these pits give us some insight as to what his brilliant army looked like and what strategies he might have used in warfare. The chariots were wood, single-shafted, double-wheeled, and led by 4 horses, typically in the front, at least this one type of chariot. The chariot usually consisted of 3 parts: the weight-bearing part, the movement facilitating part, like the wheels and the axles, and the horse harness. And there were a couple different chariot types. They had the same basic construction. They were lightweight and designed for attack. But there were ordinary chariots and command chariots. Command chariots had luxurious decorations, refined colorful patterns, and hanging bells and drums. And each chariot featured an officer, a charioteer, and a warrior. The ordinary chariots, again, were lightweight and efficient, but they were just a little more simple in design. Charioteers were responsible for driving the chariot to ensure safety and keeping its movement flexible, and it was said that a driver's technique was directly related to its success in war. Drivers were strictly selected and trained to ensure all chariots were under perfect control. And revisiting the Hiku horses, they were small in size with wide necks. They were similar to the Hiku horses living today around the Tao River and in Gansu province, China. And the body and spirit of each terracotta face is important. Unlike identical mass-produced faces in figure sculptures, this was a breakthrough because artists were able to create distinct characteristics by analyzing different facial features. Individual identities are represented in each of the faces, and 8 different basic face shapes were used. And here we have mustaches. Qin people really cherished the mustache. Almost all adult males grew facial hair or beards. Criminals were forced to shave it off. There was the whiskey mustache, the long beard, and the handlebar mustache.